What if Ahsoka brought Anakin back to the light on Malacore? Part 4. Anakin and Ahsoka left informing the rest of the rebellion of what they were doing to Thrawn and quickly went to their shuttle, which was still on board Thrawn's Star Destroyer. They take off and plug Aethys coordinates into the computer and quickly jump into hyperspace. However, before they get too far, a message from Bell detours them to Alderaan. When they land in the palace, Obi-Wan is waiting for them on the landing pad. He was going to join them in their fight against Sidious, and Anakin and Ahsoka were thankful for it. With him on board, they took off again and resumed their journey to Aethys without any further interruption. They arrive over the planet, and from the atmosphere at least, it is eerily familiar to Tatooine for Anakin with the two suns and sand on the surface. Though he is thankful when they enter atmosphere and the vegetation can be seen scattered everywhere. While Anakin pilots, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka delve into the Force and search for the dark presence. Ahsoka also looks at the landscape to see if she recognizes anything. At the first sight of ruins, she becomes near certain that this was the right place, as the architecture resembled the temple she had seen in her vision. However, after a few hours of searching and no results, Obi-Wan and Anakin began to doubt. When Anakin was about ready to give up and leave, Ahsoka kicked him out of the pilot seat and took over. She was about to delve into the Force again and let it guide her, when she remembered that it was Morai that had guided her before. She whispered out loud, asking Morai to guide her again. Anakin and Obi-Wan looked at her weird, but before they could say anything, Morai flew in front of the ship and then suddenly banked to the right. Ahsoka turned the ship hard to follow, tossing Anakin and Obi-Wan, causing them to let out surprised yelps. They stayed silent though as Ahsoka followed Morai, but it wasn't long before Anakin stiffened and closed his eyes. He said that he could feel someone, and he believed that it was Sidious. Ahsoka smiled softly, being thankful that she had once again believed in Morai. Morai flew up and out of sight just as Ahsoka saw the ruins of a temple she had seen in her vision. She flew behind the sand dunes that she had crested in her vision and landed near a corpse of trees that were nestled against a cliff. By now, all of them could feel the dark side of the Force presence. It was like they weren't even trying to hide it, though if they were paying any attention, they would also know that they had guessed. The two disembarked the ship and Ahsoka unconsciously took the lead to the crumbling temple, having already walked this path before. As she entered the temple a second time, she noticed that there were many more rooms and hallways than she had first noticed, a labyrinth of corridors, and she realized that she had not walked straight down the main corridor as there wasn't one. However, she still somehow knew the way and confidently led Obi-Wan and Anakin to the chamber that she had seen. When they got there, it was like her vision again, the light pouring in from the ceiling with a hooded figure hunched over an altar. This time though, Sidious immediately turned around upon their entry into the grand chamber. He wore a wicked smile, though his displeasure was clear. He told them that he hoped that this place remained a secret, but that was ruined by who he now knew to be Ahsoka due to her Force presence. Either way, she would pay for it and Anakin would pay for betraying him. Without waiting another moment, Sidious ignited two lightsabers and leapt towards them. They all ignited their lightsabers, and Anakin went forward to directly confront Sidious. Obi-Wan jumped in a moment later as Anakin was driven back, putting his Form 3 to use, blocking Sidious. Ahsoka stayed on the side, watching and waiting for openings. She knew she was no match for Sidious, especially in a prolonged duel. When she saw an opening, she struck, but was always forced to quickly retreat again as Sidious shifted his focus to her. It still at least gave Anakin and Obi-Wan a moment. They were steadily wearing Sidious down, and it was obvious he knew it, as he kept trying to target a single opponent. He used his Sith tricks whenever he could, whether it be Sith lightning or a Sith howl, but they had little effect as he had to quickly stop or risk getting gutted. Anakin found it odd that Sidious was acting like this. It was not like him to personally fight his opponent. Rather, he would have someone else and only fight if he had to, like if he was buying time. Anakin jerked his head to the altar and caught a glimpse of something, but had to refocus on the duel as Sidious swung at him. He yelled to Ahsoka to chuck the altar, and she immediately rushed toward it. However, before she reached it, Sidious let out a screech and launched himself across the room towards her and the altar. Anakin and Obi-Wan rushed after him, desperate to get to Ahsoka as he landed in front of her. Ahsoka raised her lightsabers and engaged him, but wasn't messing around anymore, shooting lightning with his left while he swung his lightsaber with his right. She was knocked off balance as he pushed her back, and before she knew it, she lost her main lightsaber. Sidious didn't even hesitate as he swung again, and she felt his lightsaber cut through her, the pain making her cry out and collapse, faintly aware of her right arm falling further away with her leku, too far away. Anakin and Obi-Wan reached her only in time to prevent Sidious from finishing her, and while Obi-Wan protected her, Anakin drove him back, his anger and the fear of losing Ahsoka powering him on. He quickly drove him back and was close to finally killing him before the altar suddenly exploded, throwing them all back. As Anakin looked up and squinted through the dust and what had to be smoke, an ethereal figure floated above the ruined altar. The figure had crimson skin with tentacle-like things dangling from its cheeks and glowing yellow eyes. His gaze drifted across the room before landing on Sidious. In a gravelly but deep voice, he asked Sidious why he had summoned and disturbed him. Sidious cackled, saying violence but power. The figure asked if he knew who he was, and Sidious immediately answered, saying that of course he knew, that he was Vodo Kresh, the greatest alchemist of the Sith Empire. Kresh simply chuckled and asked if he truly believed that he was strong enough to control him, a true Sith. He must be arrogant or foolish, but either way, he was thankful for his body. Without hesitating, Kresh flew through the air towards Sidious. For the first time in his life, Anakin saw true fear in Sidious' face, as he first shot lightning, then just blindly lashed out with the Force. Neither made Kresh flinch or even harm his ethereal figure, and his misty form disappeared into the body of Sidious. Sidious hunched over and screamed as the two souls fought for control of the body. Anakin scrambled to his feet and found where his lightsaber had landed. He ignited it and approached the thrashing body of Sidious, not wanting to let this opportunity be wasted. But before he could get within striking distance, Sidious stilled. When he straightened, Anakin knew that Sidious had lost, as the face was contorted into a sneer with eyes that didn't seem to match the body. Anakin crouched and then launched forward. Kresh raised his lightsaber in time but stumbled back upon the impact. Anakin didn't want to give him a moment and relentlessly pushed him, not wanting to allow him to get used to the body. When his back hit the wall, Anakin swiftly cut off both of his hands before running him through. Before his eyes, the body of Sidious crumbled as Kresh's ethereal form fled and Sidious regained his body. Now wait another moment, Anakin swiftly cut his head off, and before his eyes, Sidious's body turned to dust. Kresh shot back away from Anakin before looking around again. This time, his gaze down on where Obi-Wan was tending to Ahsoka. Anakin saw where he was looking and immediately reached out and grabbed Kresh with the Force, yanking him toward him. He told him that he was thankful for helping kill Sidious, but not thankful enough to let a true Sith be free. He started crushing the figure of Kresh with the Force, and he shrieked, though Anakin didn't stop till his ethereal form was gone. He only realized after how much injury it took as he collapsed to his knees, exhausted. He couldn't rest now, though. Ahsoka was hurt. He staggered to his feet and rushed over to where she and Obi-Wan were, but stopped short at the sight and his heart lurched. Her right arm and leg were gone, nowhere to be seen. Obi-Wan got him moving again, though, telling him that they needed to get her to the medical facility fast, otherwise risk losing her. He told Anakin to carry back to the ship, power it up and see if there was a medical droid while he tried to find her arm and leg so that they could hopefully reattach him. Anakin numbly but promptly obeyed, going to her uninjured side and gently scooping Ahsoka into his arms. She was partially conscious and groaned as he realized that the lightsaber had also grazed her side as well. As he left the temple, he did his best not to put pressure on that side as he hurried to the ship over the soft sand. When he got to and powered up, his fears were realized when he found no medical droid. He had never seen one on all the time traveling on it. Didn't even really have any rooms. It was fast, but it was because it was small. Anakin did, however, find some medical supplies, including back-to-packages, which he quickly retrieved and rushed back to where he had laid Ahsoka in the center of the ship. It was a small open area that was just up the ramp. A better space worked on her than the cramped bunk that was crammed into the wall of the ship. It felt like forever before Obi-Wan returned. But when he saw him, he simply shook his head. He couldn't find her arm and leg. The explosion had blown them away and ruined the temple, making finding them a near impossibility. Aang tried not to dwell on what it might mean, and quickly took the control of the ship, taking off and exiting the atmosphere of the Forsaken planet, jumping to hyperspace once the hyperdrive was ready. It was almost instinct of where to go. Alderaan had become like safe haven for him, and he hoped that they would make it in time for Ahsoka. The time to hyperspace dragged by painfully slow for them, as Ahsoka came in out of consciousness. Immediately when they exited hyperspace above Alderaan, though, Anakin set a communication to the palace, letting them know that they were coming in the situation. When they landed in the palace, there were people waiting for them. As soon as Anakin lowered the ramp, they ran onto the ship, gently transferred Ahsoka to a stretcher, and rushed her inside. Obi-Wan and Anakin numbly followed at a distance, just beginning to allow themselves to process what had happened. Leia met them in the medical wing, and she just caught a glimpse of Ahsoka before they could shut the door to work on her. She asked what happened and Obi-Wan told her the important bits, most importantly how Palpatine is now dead. She turned to the person that followed her and told them to inform Bell of the situation, to which they nodded and excused themselves. They all waited for news of Ahsoka and were soon joined by Luke, who had been out in the city. It wasn't long after that someone came out. They told them that they believed that she would be fine, though they couldn't guarantee since they were not experts on Togruta physiology. Either way, they were repairing a prosthetic arm for her. Ahsoka didn't wake up for a couple of days, but when she did, they were relieved. Bell's back on Alderaan by then and explained to all of them that with the death of Sidious, most of the Imperials had surrendered, though there were a portion of Imperial remnants that made fiefdoms that were spread across the galaxy. The main worrying thing was that they found that Sidious had made an order in case he was killed that basically told any remaining Imperials to destroy as many worlds as possible. Most weren't following it, but there were a few that were, the primary person being Gallius Rax. Bell had come back to ask for assistance in stopping Operation Cinder from Anakin and Obi-Wan. They hesitantly agreed to help after Ahsoka reassured them she would be fine without them there. They soon left with Bell, leaving Ahsoka to recover with the encouragement from Luke and Leia. Anakin and Obi-Wan immediately jumped into the fight, stopping the Imperials from destroying several worlds with the help of the Mandalorians, who are still more than eager to both exact revenge for what they had attempted to do to their homeworld and people, and wanted others to be spared that same fate as well. The Mandalorians had become more militarized with more and more donning armor and joined the fight, and though the New Republic was wary, they were still glad that they were getting help. Operation Cinder was a mixed blessing for the New Republic, as it allowed them to find and fight the most die-hard Imperials while the rest surrendered due to the horror of what they were attempting to do. Thankfully though, Anakin and Obi-Wan finally catch up to Gallius Rax and defeat his fleet over Vardos, thus ending Operation Cinder. But thanks to R2-D2 scanning the Imperial databanks, they learned that the operation was just a distraction for the rest of the loyal Imperials to flee into the unknown regions. Though there were no coordinates, they managed to find some Imperials that were preparing to flee and sneak aboard one of the cruisers. They informed Bell of their findings and suspicions that the Imperials were gathering, and he promised to gather the rebel fleet to be ready to strike when they got the coordinates of the staging ground. Anakin and Obi-Wan commandeered the ship while it was in hyperspace. Once they exit, they find a planet below them with dozens of star destroyers and countless other ships in orbit. Looking at the star charts, the planet was named Exegol. Anakin wants to immediately inform the Republic, but Obi-Wan stops him, telling him that they are likely monitoring the ships for such cases, and probably jamming signals. So instead they would take the shuttle to dock in the cruiser and fight at the surface. Immediately upon entering the atmosphere, coordinates and landing pad number were broadcast to them, thankfully giving them the location of the facility on the planet. They debate what to do, but Anakin, who was getting more and more impatient through the months of fighting, finally won out. They would simply land and fight their way to the communication center, send out the coordinates for the planet in hopes that the rebel fleet had gathered, then get back to the shuttle. They mostly received the plan as though the Imperials were looking for spies. They weren't expecting 2 Jedi, and though stormtroopers were good, they were no match for them. Anakin was especially temperamental, blasting his way through with the utmost force. They half expected the Imperials to bomb the base, shut down the signal, so as soon as they sent it out, they ran as fast as they could to get back to the landing pads. However, upon reaching them, they instead found that they were sending down shuttles. Anakin wondered that perhaps there was something here that they needed to protect, but didn't focus on it as they powered up the shuttle and took off. He stayed in the atmosphere and managed to use the TIE fighters that were sent after them before finding a place to land to await the rebel fleet. They didn't have to wait long, as soon, even from the surface, they could see a massive battle commence in orbit. Anakin was tempted to stay and watch, but Obi-Wan got him to take off as debris started to come raining down. As they were about to make it into orbit, Obi-Wan saw a star destroyer that had gone pulling the atmosphere crash into the Imperial base, causing a terrific explosion. Anakin grumbled now they wouldn't be able to find what they wanted to protect, but Obi-Wan pointed out that with his recent attitude, he wouldn't have stayed to investigate anyway. Ignoring his comment, Anakin flies into space and is about to send a message to the New Republic Admiral in charge, when he sees the Republic ships in their formation. Republic Star Destroyers in a classic Thrawn formation. It was easy to pick out his capital ship among it, and they scuttled around the edge of the battle to it, informing them who they were in advance. Once they in the hangar, they joined Thrawn on the bridge and watched the battle turn into a complete victory for the Republic. As soon as that happened, Thrawn, likely having read Anakin's restlessness, quickly sent them off back to the known galaxy. He had brought the shuttle they had gone as a gift to Ahsoka and Anakin from where they had left it to infiltrate the fleet, so they gladly took it, leaving Thrawn to finish the Empire. Anakin and Obi-Wan arrived back on Alderaan to find Ahsoka training Luke and Leia in both aspects of the Force and in lightsaber forms. The doctors had attached her prosthetic arm, but it had been hard for Ahsoka to come to terms with losing her arm in Leku. But as the prosthetic arm was attached, she couldn't help but laugh as she realized that she was now, like Zelda, but on the opposite side. Put them together and you would get a full Togruta. The thought made her wonder how he was doing and where he had ended up. Once Doctor deemed it safe to fully become accustomed to her new arm, Ahsoka began practicing lightsaber forms. Luke and Leia had seen her one day and she offered to teach them, which they excitedly accepted. She found that the new arm felt like the old one once she had tweaked it to her liking, albeit tough and she'd go on like nothing had happened. Her Leku, however, did constantly throw her off and make her uneasy whenever the once familiar presence wasn't there resting on her shoulder. In time, she had been able to find where Zelda ended up. He and most of the refugees had settled on Alderaan, so she was able to meet and catch up. He gave her tips and advice to help her become more accustomed to her new way of life. With Anakin's Obi-Wan's return, everyone caught up and Anakin started to try to act like a father to Luke and Leia. They periodically joined the New Republic forces to eliminate the few Imperial holds that were left. When they were quickly dealt with, the galaxy finally found some peace. The Senate was fully re-established and reforms were happening, though many worlds are refusing to join the Republic, instead opting to remain independent. Mandalore and Ryloth were the forefront of these planets, with the Mandalorians acting as protectors for those planets. They embraced a glorious combat by fighting pirates, slavers, and criminal empires as a whole. Mon Mothma was focusing on bringing peace as fast as possible and at all costs, and thankfully her efforts were paying off as few people wanted more war. Yoda stayed in exile, but Obi-Wan decided to start a new Jedi Order, though this was entirely composed of volunteers, and focused on just training Force sensitives how to handle and not abuse the Force. Anakin and Ahsoka sometimes helped him, but mostly focused on helping keep the galaxy at peace and teaching Luke and Leia. Leia decided to stay with the Organas on Alderaan since they felt like her family, though she and Luke still did accept Anakin. The Organas had also adopted Luke per his wish, which they were more than willing to do so he could be with his sister. With the Sith and dogmatic Jedi gone, and peace on everyone's mind, the galaxy entered another golden age. This was not just felt in the core, but all throughout the galaxy.